Will Daisy Mountain bloom this year? Spring is in the air, and we're all thinking of Anthem Arizona weather, right? Well, maybe not. But one of the burning questions in the minds and mouths of us Anthemites is, will Daisy Mountain bloom this year? If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm Carolyn, and I'm proud to be an Anthem resident, and I'm proud to be a member of the Wise Move AZ team of Realty One Group, and your local realtor. On this channel, we have a lot of fun talking about all things Anthem and real estate, and we would love to have you along for the ride. So hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon so that you'll be notified when our new videos are released every single Thursday. If you live in Anthem, you totally get the debate about whether or not Daisy Mountain will bloom in the spring. If you don't live in Anthem, you are missing a rare phenomenon, a spectacular show of yellow. It is as much loved and enjoyed when it happens as it is sorely missed when it doesn't. We at the Wise Move AZ team have a curious and inquisitive nature. We love to answer questions, solve mysteries, and dig into the unknown. The blooming of Daisy Mountain and what it takes to make that happen is not simply answered by Googling it. So we decided to dig in and figure it out ourselves. In unraveling the mystery, we needed to answer some important questions. Number one, what is the source of the beautiful yellow color? Having spent countless hours hiking Daisy Mountain, we are intimately familiar with the cacti and shrubbery that lives and thrives there. The most prolific vegetation is a shrub known by its common name as brittlebush. Its scientific name is Encilia farinosa. Ouch! I'm going to stick with the name brittlebush. The brittlebush flower is a small daisy. How can we not conclude that this is precisely where the name Daisy Mountain comes from? We can only speculate that long before Anthem ever existed, the people who saw the bloom decided to honor it by giving the mountain its name, Daisy. The second question is, what is brittlebush? Brittlebush is a small deciduous shrub. It can grow as tall as 5 feet and is common in the Sonoran Desert. Its leaves are up to 4 inches long, have serrated edges, and appear to be covered in hair. The hairs protect the bush from extremely hot summers and frigid winters. The hairs also help to trap water and slow the evaporation process. That preserves precious water for the plant. Brittlebush is a perennial that normally blooms from March to May. However, it can be showy throughout the year with even a small amount of rain. When brittlebush goes without water for too long, the blooms die, the leaves fall off, and what you're left with is a tangle of extremely brittle branches. Thus, the name brittlebush. With a shallow taproot and multiple lateral roots, this plant lays in wait for the next rainfall. The third question is, why doesn't Daisy Mountain bloom every spring? What we are looking for here is akin to a superbloom, like the famous California superbloom that happened in 2019. It was hard to miss the thousands of photos that circulated all over the internet and in our email. It even made the national news. In fact, the California superbloom warranted satellite photos just to show the enormity of it. Yes, that's exactly what we're looking for, a Daisy Mountain superbloom. Since 2007, there have been 2 Daisy Mountain superblooms. The first was in 2010, and the second was in 2017. Can I just say that it doesn't take a rocket scientist, a genius, or even a horticulturalist to know that plants need sunshine, water, nutrients, and the right temperature at the right time in order to thrive. Thankfully, that basic formula is pretty simple. That said, we jumped into an examination of each of these factors to determine the impact they had or may have had on the Daisy Mountain superblooms. Sunshine. Sunshine is never hard to come by in the Arizona desert, and Daisy Mountain is no exception. We looked up the historic days of sunshine versus rain and cloud cover in the days, weeks, and even months leading up to the super blooms of 2010 and 2017 were very comparable to the years when the mountain did not bloom. We quickly eliminated lack of sunshine as a determining factor. So we looked at water. Scarcity of water is a legendary issue here in the desert, but a very interesting subject to jump into. The rainfall services do not keep specific records just for Anthem. So, to make our research possible, we relied heavily on a great family friend who's been tracking the rain in Anthem since 2007. Focusing on the rainfall that led up to the super blooms in 2010 and 2017, here's what we found. Firstly, the total rainfall in January and February 2010 was 7.45 inches. Secondly, the total rainfall for January and February 2017 was 5.6 inches. Thirdly, the average rainfall in Anthem in January and February is 2.82 inches. The difference was too big to ignore, right? Eureka! Did we find the answer? Is it this simple? Instead of April showers bring May flowers, in Anthem we can sing January and February showers bring March and April flowers. Yeah, okay, it's a bit awkward. I get it. It turns out the answer is not that simple. We can't ignore the fact that in the first 2 months of 2019, we had a total of 6.05 inches of rain. That's more rain than we got in the 2 months preceding the 2010 super bloom and in the 2 months preceding the 2017 super bloom. It's not to be ignored. But in 2019, Daisy Mountain didn't grace us with a super bloom. Why? We think the answer to this may lie in the fact that in 2017, despite a wet start that resulted in a stunning super bloom, the remainder of the year was the driest it has ever been over the period of 13 years. The total rainfall in 2017 was 6.65 inches. That's compared to an average rainfall of 10.78 inches. More importantly, 5.6 of those inches fell in January and February. This means that in the remaining 10 months of 2017, Anthem saw only a total of 1.05 inches of rain. We speculate that during the drought conditions that existed on Daisy Mountain, the brittle bush suffered terribly and much of it died off. We think that by 2019, the brittle bush hadn't recovered sufficiently to allow a super bloom despite the abundance of rain in the first 2 months of the year. The next thing we looked at is the nutrients. It turns out that nobody's monitoring the nutrients on Daisy Mountain, or they're doing it, but they're not making the results of their research available to the public. Go figure. There are many factors that affect the nutrients in the soil, such as the drought that we just talked about. But any other catastrophic event, like fire, flooding, other nuclear events, nothing really happened on Daisy Mountain save and except that drought period. Aside from the example given, there's no reason to believe that the nutrient content of the soil affected the Daisy Mountain super blooms. And the truth is, without data, there's no way to know for sure what happened with the nutrients in the soil. We therefore conveniently draw the conclusion that the answer to the superbloom question does not lie in the nutrients in the soil on Daisy Mountain. The last thing we looked at was temperature. The final factor that has an important impact on vegetation is the temperature. So off we went to find the historic temperatures from 2007 to 2020. We did not find temperatures leading up to the 2010 and 2017 super blooms to be notably higher or lower than in years when Daisy Mountain did not bloom. We get that the temperature needs to be in the right range at the time of germination, but it seems that the low fluctuation in temperatures is sufficient to facilitate germination. So after all that, our conclusion is this: there are many factors that need to come together in perfect harmony to create the circumstances that are perfect for the super blooming of Daisy Mountain. Without all these conditions in place, the super bloom's not going to happen. We also feel that the single biggest factor determining whether or not we're going to have a super bloom is the amount of rain that falls in January and February. So it's time for me to give you our prediction for Daisy Mountain in 2020. And it breaks my heart to tell you that we believe that the super bloom will not happen in 2020. We've looked at the actual and predicted rainfall for January and February thus far, and we don't believe that there's going to be enough rain to make that super bloom happen. So there you have it. What do you think? Do you think Daisy Mountain will super bloom this year? If you enjoyed this video, let us know by hitting that like button, subscribing to our channel, and telling your friends. We look forward to seeing you next Thursday.